Welcome to the Singapore Management University podcast series, which features the latest insights and perspectives from our faculty. With the ever-growing amount of data generated through user activities, there is more information to learn about consumers' personal preferences, but also a rising hurdle to do this more intelligently. Understanding more about consumer behavior and preferences and offering better product and service recommendations can allow more personalized digital experiences or services. These can become critical advantages in the competitive and crowded marketplace. In this podcast, SMU Assistant Professor Hadi Lau from the School of Information Systems shares about his research on data and preference mining. He's aiming for targeted and revolutionary data mining solutions that can lead to more accurate personalization. Professor, what's the present situation in terms of research and data mining for online personalization? What's the level of understanding of digital consumer behavior and preferences?
Right. So first of all, let me first say that online personalization itself is very pervasive. So we see it in many domains of our life. If you go to, for example, like Amazon, like a digital commerce site, Amazon would basically recommend things that other people will buy. And something that is pretty much close to all of us, probably the Facebook newsfeed. Like every day we go on and check what's happening there. And your newsfeed is going to look very different from my newsfeed, and the reason for that is because essentially Facebook is personalizing what we see. Now similarly, like Netflix is coming to Singapore, and this is essentially like a video streaming service, and the same thing, because there are so many videos for you to watch, they have to recommend certain things that you're more likely to want to watch. Now, having said that, since the online personalization itself is pervasive, the reason for that is that it's not just useful, it's actually necessary. And the reason why it's necessary is because when we go online, there are just so many options. Now, let's take for example, right? So what would be the equivalent of Amazon online? So offline, it would be like digital physical store in Simlim probably. So supposing I just buy a new iPhone, I'm looking for a case. So one option for me, I could go to Simlim and I could go to a store and I could choose among the options that they have. There might be 10, 20, 50, or even 100, but I could spend an hour looking through all the different options. Now, if I were to go to Amazon and essentially just search for iPhone case, you don't get 10 or 20 or 50, you get millions. So in that case, it's not possible for any consumer to just go online and navigate through every single thing one by one. So in that sense, the businesses need a way to simplify the interface to the consumers in order to be able to recommend things that you are more likely to buy so that you don't have to see through all the millions. How is it done? So the online personalization technologies essentially are based on data mining. And the idea is that we are going to look at the data coming in from what the user has done. So these are like the transactions, what they buy, what they watch, and probably like whether they rate things online from 1 to 5, whether they like it, whether they don't like it. So we enable some algorithms that is going to trawl through all this data and try to extract some insights about what the user likes and dislikes, so that we can actually do personalization for that specific user. And what I find really fascinating about all this is the idea that, to personalize something, the idea is that you're unique. So we want to give you something that is not the same as everybody else. But the reality is that most of the algorithms actually have to look for people who are similar to you. So in that sense, we are unique, but we are not that unique after all, and that's actually a good thing.
Why do you think we should better mine data about user preferences?
We can do a lot more, but the reason why we can do a lot more is that the current problems with recommender systems is that essentially suffering from two issues. So one of the issues is what I call sparsity. The idea of sparsity is that we don't actually have enough data, and the reason why that is true is because we know a lot about a lot of people, but we know very little about each one of them. So essentially we know very little about a lot of people. And that gives us some problems because when we are trying to personalize, we need to know more about individual users. So that's one issue. Another issue is the issue what we call fragmentation, because all of us are human beings, right? So we have very diverse preferences. We do a lot of things in different spaces. And in that case, like we buy certain things, we go to a digital store like Amazon. When we watch things, we go to Netflix. So we do different things, and each business, each company only knows a slice of us. So in that sense, they don't know all of us. So that actually limits the applicability of some of these recommender systems because it doesn't learn the nuances that comes through for a more comprehensive view of these things. This is actually very applicable to a lot of digital businesses, and both consumers and businesses are going to benefit from personalization. So on the one hand, if we look from the point of view of consumers, because of the multitude and diversity of options that are out there, this technology is going to allow us to simplify their life so that they don't have to go through all these different options. And that creates a lot of goodwill and usability and some satisfaction with the service. Now, from the point of view of the businesses, even though they go online, they still face some limitations. And because there is still a notion of real estate online. And that essentially is our own screen real estate, like what we can see on a given screen. And they have so many different things in their inventory. They can't sell them unless they can show them to their customers. But the customers can't see all of them in one small little screen. So the only way to optimize for this real estate is to show each one of us something different, something that is actually closer to what we like, something that we prefer. So in that sense, the businesses would have a way to essentially earn more revenue, gain more profit by exposing us to things that we are going to like anyway.
Share with us your research on data and preference mining so far. What are your research goals?
So we are really looking at finding better data mining algorithms in order to do more accurate personalizations. Now, I mentioned just now the problem with sparsity and fragmentation. And going forward, what we see to be something promising is essentially the wave of big data. So the notion of big data is that we now know a lot more about people because everybody's now using a smartphone and they do a lot of things there, and they all these activities there online can actually be traced, and some of it can be used to design better algorithms for personalization. Now, on one hand, we think that the big data can reduce the sparsity issue because of the greater amount of data we have for individual users. On the other hand, the fragmentation part is also useful because we see that people nowadays are increasingly more willing to share their preferences on the public spaces that are online. So when we go to Twitter, for example, right, people comment on a lot of things. And this cuts across different domains. Like they may talk about the movies that they watch, they may talk about the cameras that they just buy. And what we hope to do is that we hope to be able to take advantage of this. Now, although this notion of big data is promising, it's also bringing some additional problems. And I'm just going to mention two key problems. One is the problem of volume. So because there is just so much of the data, existing algorithms cannot cope, in that sense that it cannot consume all of this data efficiently. So what we need is a set of algorithms that can run faster so that we can actually consume all this data that are coming in and being able to learn what the user preference as well. So another issue that I'll mention about the big data is the concept of variety. Because in the past, when people study user preferences, they mostly look at transaction data or ratings data, which are numerical. But what we see are coming in today is something that is a lot more diverse. So we also would like to be able to analyze text, for example. For example, what people write in Twitter, what they write in reviews, like the text reviews. And this is actually much more complex than just looking at a series of numbers. Not just that, there are also other kind of formats and modalities, such as like images, like what people take a picture of, what they post on Instagram, and so on. So to really be able to solve these issues of both like the volume and the variety of data, we basically need better algorithms, and this is basically the focus of my research.
In conclusion, share with us your view on the future of research in this area.
One interesting thing is that because we are making use of algorithms for data mining and machine learning, and these are essentially algorithms that can learn from data. So there has been a very long-standing question and discussion about what is really more important. Is more data important, or are better algorithms more important? So, and it's looking like over the years we are seeing that the greater promise that data brings us. So in that sense, what we have seen in the past, most of the research in this area, in terms of studying user preferences and recommendation systems, they are built on some what we call benchmark data sets. And the idea is that these are data sets that are made available to a lot of different researchers so that we can all compete and design better and better algorithms. But what we are seeing is that the improvements that we are getting is getting smaller and smaller. So which means that more or less better and better algorithms can't extract much more if the data is so limited. So in that sense, going forward, what we would really like to explore is the notion of trying to achieve significant leaps in improvement through better data. And this better data is going to come in not in terms of just higher quality data, but through the amalgamation of different types and modalities of data, be it text, ratings, social networks, and images, so that we can know a lot more about individual users that we can actually use to do better personalizations. So essentially, big data is going to let us know more and more about specific individual users, so that this technology hopefully is going to be even more beneficial in the future.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.